All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. The Niners have their defensive coordinator. We'll talk about it next. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by MarinAutoglass.com, 415-883-3030, and Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles. Give Anthony Catania a call at 831-521-5264. Well, here it is, March the 2nd, and the 49ers have hired their defensive coordinator. Adam Schefter reported at first the Niners plan to hire Nick Sorensen, their passing game specialist, as their new DC. So former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley is also joining Shanahan's staff, according to Schefter. And Jeremy Fowler, who both had the report. Staley will be the assistant head coach. Somewhat of a surprise. Sorensen has been with the 49ers for only 2 seasons. And so in that respect, he should know exactly what Shanahan expects. There may have been a disconnect last year between Steve Wilks and Shanahan and the expectations. So it's not like Sorensen has to adapt to a new scheme or coach a scheme he's not familiar with. He definitely lacks experience, though, as a defensive coordinator. He did call plays as a special teams coordinator for Jacksonville. He also was a longtime assistant with the Seahawks under Dan Quinn, a coach who obviously Shanahan coached under with the Falcons. And Sorensen ran predominantly a zone scheme that gets pressure up front from their front four. He spent time in Seattle 2013 through 2020, where he was the secondary coach in his latter years there. As far as Staley, he comes in to replace Anthony Lynn, and he'll do the same things that Anthony Lynn did. He's got play calling experience. He's got history as a defensive coordinator, and, that should maybe help Sorensen in some way because Sorensen is an inexperienced first-time DC. The one thing that John Lynch made the point of at the Combine is the Niners weren't going to change their scheme. And so to go to Staley full-time would probably have been a scheme change. But they said there's certain core principles that they're not going to move away from on the defensive side. And those core principles are the wide 9 front. So it's going to be interesting. It will help Staley now coming onto the Niners staff, kind of looking at the Niners defense, seeing how Sorensen coaches it up, seeing how things go. Shanahan now has 2 defensive coaches added to his mix. And of course, this follows the removal of Steve Wilks as the Niners defensive coordinator. Niners, under Wilks, he only had 1 season as the DC. The Niners ranked 8th in total yards allowed, 3rd in points allowed. So it wasn't like it was some train wreck. 3rd in rushing yards allowed, 14th in passing yards allowed during the regular season. So now in steps Sorensen, and before he went to Jacksonville to be their special teams coordinator, he spent 8 years with Seattle, as I mentioned, where he held roles as special teams assistant, secondary coach. He started his coaching career in 2012 as a defensive quality control coach for Youngstown State University after a decade-long career in the NFL, playing for the Rams, the Jags, and the Browns. So, and as far as Staley, he spent the last 3 seasons as the Chargers head coach. They went 24-24. They did make 1 playoff appearance. Prior to that, he was the DC for the Rams in 2020. And during that season, the Rams defense ranked 1st in total yards, 1st in points allowed, and 1st in passing yards allowed, and placed 3rd in rushing yards allowed. So we had a lot of success with the Rams, but the bloom is off the Staley rose. Before the time with the Rams, Staley worked as a linebacker coach with the Bears and with the Denver Broncos. So, it was an interesting group. I mean, they interviewed Gerald Alexander, Daniel Bullocks, Dave Merritt from the Chiefs, Nick Sorensen, Brandon Staley, and Gerald Alexander was the last coach to get an interview. He's the Raiders safeties coach, all for their defensive coordinator position. And we'll just have to see where it goes as far as, how this plays out. I mean, I was shocked that they would go with Sorensen just because Sorensen has 2 years of experience in the Niners system. I thought they would have wanted more, but clearly they feel like Sorensen, they value, um, continuity coming off of the Steve Wilkes 1 year, probably more than they have in the past. And so they get that with Sorensen. At least he knows the defense. He knows Chris. He knows Johnny. He knows the players. He knows the scheme. He knows the way Shanahan wants it done. So at least there's not like a brand new coach in the room with new expectations and that kind of thing. But are the players going to buy in day one? I don't know. I don't know how popular Sorensen is. I don't know how he's thought of by the team or by the players themselves. But there's no question that that Sorensen is the continuity hire. No question about that. He is the continuity hire. So there you go. Nick Sorensen, the newest 49ers head coach. All right, the coach is going to join us next. We'll talk a little bit more about this coming up on our stream, which is going to be next right here on the Krug Show. All right, there we go. Now we welcome in the coach. Coach, how are you?
Yep.
How's
Are we
going?
streaming live?
Yeah, we're streaming live because I hit the wrong button. I was trying to tape a video on Nick Sorensen, but there you go.
Larry, I'm not even set. Okay. All right.
All right,
hold
let's
on,
do
Larry.
this. Let's do this. I will
love
end
you,
this.
man.
I will end this so I can give this to Kev to edit, and then we will jump back in 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Be right back.
I thought you